Hello everyone, and welcome to the most ambitious media moments video I have ever done. You see, while watching Encanto for the second time, I noticed that it was the animation studio's 60th animated film, and I thought it'd be fun to watch all 60 of said films in the order they were made, as all but one are on Disney+, and then document my thoughts and share them with you. This took ages, like over 70 hours worth of footage to go through, so if you appreciate the effort I went through, leave a like on the video. I do want to note there will be mild spoilers for all the movies, and all the opinions I share are my own personal ones. You are more than welcome to disagree with me, as long as you share why in the comment section. I also want to know I wrote my thoughts on each movie right after watching the movie, in order to stay more true to the experience. Sitting with the movies longer, there are other things I would say and some things I would leave out, but I want this video to be about the experience of watching all the movies in order, so I'm keeping my thoughts as I wrote them during the movie credits. Alright, we got a lot of movies to cover, so let's get into it. 1. Snow White. So I never cared for this movie. Even as a little girl, I found it either too boring or too scary, and the singing painful to listen to. Rewatching it, I found all those things to remain true for me. Seriously, the majority of the movie you're watching Snow White clean, and the dwarves wash their hands and sleep. If it wasn't for the queen, who is genuinely scary, the movie would be unbearable. Still, for what it is, I can appreciate the movie. While seemingly demeaning to women, it does call for guys to respect and listen to them more, something uncommon for the time, and the animation holds up pretty well. Snow White running through the forest will forever haunt my childhood nightmares, but in a well-animated way. And the music, not the singing, but the music, is really pretty. In other words, Disney started out strong with Snow White, and I can see how this movie would become one an empire would be built on. 2. Pinocchio. I was really little the last time I watched this movie, and rewatching it now, I realize why I haven't watched it since. 'Cause my goodness was it dark. Be a good boy, or you'll turn into a donkey, or be locked in a cage for the rest of your life. The thing is, while this movie points out a lot of ways you could be bad, it doesn't really show many ways you can be good. I think going to school and saving your father from a whale were the only two examples. I get the message it was trying to go for, but it was so heavy, especially when the targeted audience is children. But who knows, maybe children, when this movie came out, were less likely to be traumatized by what they watched. Or maybe adults liked watching their children cry and have nightmares after watching a film. 3. Fantasia. I am both at a loss for words and have way too much to say about this movie. I am a great lover of classical music, and don't feel the animations lived up to the music it was supposed to be giving visuals to. Now, there was some good shows out of the 7 this movie consists of. The first was interesting and a good opener. The second would have been lovely if the fairies weren't naked and the goldfish flirting with viewers was removed completely. And The Sorcerer's Apprentice is considered a classic for good reasons. As for the rest, they were boring at the best of times and scarring at the worst. Every single creature drawn to be female was nude at some point. Also, I'm pretty sure an alligator tries to sexually assault a hippo and the hippo likes it. I mean, they had a 5-minute intermission where you watched the musicians leave and then come back. Like, why? And that's all I'm gonna say about this movie, at least for this video. 4. Dumbo. Despite its racial and alcoholic issues, Dumbo is still one of the sweetest of the earliest movies. Despite having ears that make him the laughingstock of the circus, it only takes having a few animals believe in him to turn what others see as a disgrace into something valuable. At the heart of this movie is the power of love between mother and child, a type of love that should never be broken. For those reasons, I still feel it's a movie worth watching as long as you can remain aware and willing to talk about its issues. 5. Bambi. It's the circle of life in its simplest form. Life and death, destruction and regrowth, warning of the power man has, but also the power nature has. Beautiful music and a beautiful story. Great discussion piece for children too. This movie was even better than I remember, but maybe that's just because I'm old enough now to understand its message and can appreciate it all the more for it. 6. Salud Amigos. If you are not the age to know this movie, you might be of the goofy shorts on Disney Channel describing things like setting up a home theater or playing baseball. This movie was that, only an hour long, and attempted to describe a culture. I think the issue with this movie, why it might seem offensive and also why it's so boring, is that they told the story of South American culture from the point of view of tourists, or of the North American Hollywood animators, instead of in the view of the people. It painted a us and them situation instead of a we are different but united point of view common in the more modern of these movies. Still, there are plenty of random trivia facts, the music is nice to listen to, and the airplane short was actually quite cute, so not all bad. 7. The Three Calaberos. What I thought would be another attempt at a cultural documentary quickly turned into 30 minutes of watching Donald Duck hit on Latin American women. Not animated women, mind you, but real ones, badly green-screened in. They played tags in bathing suits. One of the songs had pretty women whispered creepily in your ear. I am in shock. I am disgusted. I'm regretting my life choices. In a sad attempt to stay positive, the first couple minutes of the movie was good. The little penguin story was cute, but it was all downhill after that. 8. Make Mine Music. The only of all 60 animated studio movies not on Disney Plus, I had to find the 10 shorts making up this movie on YouTube. And I'm really surprised it's not on Disney, as it's actually really enjoyable. Sure, some of the 10 are a bit questionable, like the Family Feud one, but most are really sweet, like the opera singing whale and the love story between hats. Overall, I enjoyed the experience. 9. Fun and fancy-free. This one was 2 stories wrapped in one, and while I didn't care for the first one, I did enjoy the retelling of Jack and the Beanstalk. I don't think the puppets were needed, but I didn't hate the narration. The first story was simply strange and encouraged violence in a way I'm sure they didn't think was harmful at the time, but definitely could be. Still, the movie was one of the more entertaining of the ones I've watched so far. 10. Melody Time. Just like Make Mine Music, this one is a collection of stories told via or accompanied by music. Most of the stories told were enjoyable. Some sad, love stories, a few adventures, enough to keep you entertained. There were some questionable things, and I do wish they hadn't brought back Donald hitting on women, but for the most part, it was a nice way to pass an hour. Would I watch it again? Probably not, but I don't regret watching it. 11. The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. This movie was 2 stories told one after the other. The first one was after my absolute favorite book as a child, that being The Wind in the Willows. While I prefer the book, I did greatly enjoy the retelling, feeling it stayed true to the book, all in that it didn't make Mole the main character, and Mole is by far the better main character than Mr. Toad. The second story I didn't care for as much, but I also didn't hate it. I don't care for watching women fawn over men, or men caring more about a woman's money and beauty than anything else, but for the time the story was made, it wasn't a bad one. 12. Cinderella. I forgot how interesting a character the father of the prince was in this movie, never caring who his son married and wanting him to marry for love, mind you, as quickly as possible. This movie was a lot more cat chase mouse than I remember, but it's also the first of these movies to have a song I catch myself singing, so it's a win just for that. A timeless classic, Cinderella is. 13. Alice in Wonderland. I always love a good bit of nonsense, and this movie is the perfect amount. A favorite as a child, this is still one I like to watch from time to time, so I'm quite familiar with it. I adore the book, and I feel this movie stays true to it while still being separate in its just beautiful animation. 14. Peter Pan. People have a lot of issues with this movie, and I'd say rightfully so. Its portrayal of the Native Americans is not accurate or kind, but my biggest issue with this movie has always been how it took the morals of the book it's based on and chucked them out the window, leaving only the action behind. The movie itself does have a nice moral about the love and importance of mothers, but that's ruined by its portrayal of fathers. Overall, it's good for the action, but you're not going to get much else out of this movie. 15. Lady and the Tramp. This is the first love story where their love interest speaks more than 2 lines to each other, and already it's a better movie because of it. It's a sweet movie that everyone choosing to care for each other despite differences or changes that come their way. I won't ignore the problems such as the cats, but even with them, this movie is a classic love story told in an entertaining and beautiful way. 16. Sleeping Beauty. As a little girl, this was my absolute favorite movie. As an adult, it has lost much of its charm as I realize how unhealthy Rose and Philip's meeting and instant marriage was, or how foolish the fairies' plan is. Still, I adore the fairies and the simple message of love. Maleficent is a great example of a pure villain, and the art style and music for this film is one of the prettiest. 17. 101 Dalmatians. Did you know a bunch of the characters from Lady and Tramp are in this movie, including Lady herself? I didn't, but I do now. As for the movie, it's a nice one. It's nice to see the mom participating in the rescue as much as the dad is, and also to see the idea of family going beyond birth with the addition of the rest of the puppies. Despite being slow at times, Deville is a villain favorite for good reasons, so overall, a nice classic family movie. 18. The Sword and the Stone. With a bit of education, determination, and luck, you can become and do anything. That is what this movie suggests. It also teaches life basics through the eyes of nature and its animals. This movie was a favorite of my family, and I feel it held its own morality and story-wise better than most of the other movies from this era on Disney. Then again, Arthur is a legend lasting centuries and will probably be one that lasts centuries more. 19. The Jungle Book. Now, most everyone loves the songs in this movie. Well, every song but the last one, and I am no exception. Still, despite the premise of the movie and the amount of adventure it's supposed to have, I found it slow. The Elephant Brigade was something that had no payoff, though the vultures were a nice touch I had forgotten about. Also, the main moral is a good one in that you should do what's best for others, even if it isn't what you want for yourself. 20. The Aristocrats. Nothing terribly extraordinary about this one. You got a plain villain and a mini adventure that leads to the love interest getting together in the end. The songs are not bad, but also not terribly rememberable for me. My friends hate me when I say this, but you know, my opinion's my opinion. The different cats' personalities don't go beyond a single trait is probably my biggest complaint, but the kittens are cute, which makes the movie overall an okay one to watch. 21. Robin Hood. This is the classic tale told with some lighthearted songs and from the point of view of animals. If you're looking for a unique twist on the classic tale, then this isn't the movie for you. But if you want to experience the classic story with some added antics and nice animations, then I would highly recommend this version. 22. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. I grew up reading the books, and the way this movie is done, in that they're in the story and aware of it, and how you flip the book affects the story, is simply adorable and clever in such a way that fits this adaptation of the book perfectly. This is a nice movie to watch with your younger siblings and or children, or if you want to spend your time watching something a bit more wholesome than the usual. 23. The Rescuers. If I could have any Disney movie be real, I think it would be this one, just because the idea of animals going on missions to rescue children who wouldn't otherwise have any help is such a sweet one, and one I wish ever so much was true. The things happening in this movie might seem a bit crazy to a watcher, but the truth is, it isn't. Children are treated like this all the time, and it's as wrong in real life as it is in this movie. But this is a movie of hope, that children will be saved as long as one or two people are willing to risk everything for them. 24. Fox and the Hounds. I think the thing that makes this movie so loved is how simple the story is and how complex the message is. Friendships, nature, duty, love, all these things go with and against each other constantly in real life, and this movie shows this beautifully with an unsuspected friendship between a hunting dog and his soon-to-be prey, a fox. Sometimes when we don't know how to explain a piece of the world, it's easiest to do so with a story, and this story is a good one to show some complicated ideas and to get children thinking about what is right and what is wrong, and why it is that way. 25. The Black Cauldron. This movie wasn't bad. In fact, it was quicker paced than most I've watched. So far that I'd say it was too quick. A lot of things that should have been big deals to the movie were never acted upon. The minstrel's harp, the fact the princess was not a princess, what was up with the fluff ball, just lots of questions. What I did find interesting was that Tarim was only able to win the battle because his heart was in a good place, not because of any fighting skills. I love that he gave up the sword in the end for his friend's life. It felt right when most fake-out deaths don't. I kind of feel like I needed a second movie to get the full story, but I still enjoyed watching it. 26. The Great Mouse Detective. Imagine Sherlock Holmes, only nice and a mouse, and you've got this movie. You got all the fun crime-solving of the original detective and the kindness of his assistant with the addition of an okay villain and an adorable little girl. There was one song I would have rather the movie been without, but outside that, I thoroughly enjoyed this one and wouldn't mind watching more of this mouse detective solve crimes. 27. Oliver and Company. This was another cute one, showing love and family coming from all sorts of environments. Also shows how looks don't mean everything, as the first potential villain shows himself to be the hero. The songs were nice too. Not my favorites, but not bad. 28. The Little Mermaid. A favorite as I grew up, I have the songs memorized and always enjoyed rewatching. Both father and daughter find themselves being unreasonable towards each other, but thanks to the power of love, they learn to understand each other and work things out. Truly a sweet and timeless tale. 29. The Rescuers Down Under. One of the few sequels this company did, this one isn't as good as the original, though it is more enjoyable than most sequels tend to be. I still highly doubt any sane mother would let her only 6-year-old son wander the wilds like this boy does, especially with a father either missing or killed. Still, it got a lot of adventure to keep you entertained, though I think it was missing some reunions for the ending. 30. Beauty and the Beast. A tale as old as time, the music, characters, and story are memorable in so many pretty ways. Belle is one of the more relatable princesses and a good role model as she's willing to sacrifice everything for those she loves, while still holds on to her hopes and dreams even when it all seems hopeless. 31. Aladdin. What makes this movie so exceptional is that it shows true love not to be enough, that there's more to a relationship, one of the more important parts being trust. Trust in others and yourself. You can love someone to the moon and back, but if you're dishonest towards them, then it means nothing. Also, this movie's songs are some of the best, and so is its villain. Though I will not lie, Jasmine is one of the weaker of the princesses, in my opinion. 32. Lion King. Reasons this is a great movie? Teaches responsibility, respect, duty, forgiving of self, and a bunch of other useful messages for kids to learn. The songs are catchy, the animation is beautiful, the villain is a strong one with an amazing song of his own. I could go on, but I think you guys get the idea. This is one good movie. 33. Pocahontas. The biggest issue people have with this movie is how inaccurate it is to the actual history, but I feel people who think that are missing the point of the movie. This movie shows what could have, what should have been. It shows an ideal in which communication, understanding, respect, and even love win over fear, division, and hate. Colors of the Wind is one of my top 3 favorite Disney songs because it calls out so much that is wrong with our world and gives a simple way in which it can be fixed. All it takes is a little bit of listening and a whole lot of love. 34. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. At the start of the movie, a question is asked. Who is the monster and who is the man? And by the end of it, you're fully convinced that it all has to do with the heart and nothing with looks or upbringing. It's a cry to remember the forgotten and overlooked. Its music flows through the movie, increasing the power of its message. I never understood why the priest never took more interest in Quasimodo, but otherwise I feel this is a forgotten classic of Disney, which is ironic considering its messaging. 35. Hercules. At this point, Disney has got its formula down. A simple but powerful message, colorful animation, some basic but good characters, and a couple of good songs, and you got an enjoyable movie. I love mythology, and even knowing how inaccurate this is to the actual myths, I still enjoy the movie for what it is. Another lesson in the heart being your strength. 36. Mulan. This story shows the worth in all people. Your gender should not decide how valuable or define how you are allowed to become valuable. Your heart and passion should. Mulan's passion was for her family, and that passion brought her to war and to win the honor. The fact she chooses to remain true to being a woman at the end of the movie strengthens the power of the message as Mulan becomes a powerful role model for girls, just as she was a powerful warrior. 37. Tarzan. We watch as a boy is raised by apes and struggles to fit in until he is introduced to people of his own kind, and then he finds he fits into both groups only by embracing both. People often think you have to choose between different aspects of yourself, but you really don't. It's a nice movie with plenty of action, a cute romance, a meta villain, and some nice songs. Add in some heartful moments, and you've got another good Disney movie. 38. Fantasia 2000. Disney has learned from their past and taken the only one wholesome short from the original and created a bunch of new ones that are infinitely more enjoyable. We have myth, fairy tale, yo-yos, and just a lot of lovely music with lovelier animations. I enjoyed this one a lot, from the flying whales to the dreaming city dwellers. Even Penn and Teller made a guest appearance, which blew my mind. It would be interesting to see if Disney ever decides to make another one of these, and what stories it would take from the originals and which new stories it would add. 39. Dinosaur. This was one movie I had never heard of, and I'm not sure why. It might be because of the animation. The world was stunning, but the dinosaurs looked cheap beside it, almost as if there were 2 different teams designing the elements. It could also be because there's a lot of death, and it's brutal death. Unfair death. the type of death uncommon in children's movies, and it raises questions no parent really wants to answer. But the message of the movie was great because of that death. It showed the value of life, how choices have consequences, and the importance of unity. If you're like me and haven't seen this movie, I would recommend changing that and giving it a watch. 40. The Emperor's New Groove. This movie shows the importance of correcting those who are wrong and also being kind to those who are unkind. Cusco had very few people ever correct him, and the few who did had done it in unkind ways, leaving Cusco to feel entitled and bitter towards anyone different from him. It took Pancho being firm and telling Cusco he was wrong, and continuing to be kind to him when Cusco was anything but, to get Cusco to change. Kindness is powerful, and this movie is a fun and engaging way of showing that. 41. Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Atlantis is one of those things that grabs hold of your imagination and refuses to let it go. Kind of like this movie. I will say the most fascinating part of the movie, the city itself, is lacking as you get more scenes of people digging tunnels, though the dynamic between all the characters is great. The villain is a copy and paste from Tarzan, but overall the movie is beautiful and has a great message of sticking with your friends and protecting histories and cultures. 42. Leo and Stitch. Family, loyalty, love, learning to control one's tempers and emotions are all that's represented in this movie. You go all a bunch of times, maybe even cry a little as you realize no one is actually a villain, but simply wants to do what is best for as many people who are involved, or just for themselves. It depends on who you're looking at. And, as is usually the case, that means letting love and family be the thing that guides them. This movie is very sweet, and there are good reasons why you see Stitch's face everywhere. After all, he is cute and floofy and proud of it. 43. Treasure Planet. A criminally underrated movie, this retelling of Treasure Island surpasses the source material with one of the greatest villains of all time. It leaves you feeling all warm and fuzzy inside as you watch Jim and John bring out the best of each other. Morph is one of the cutest animal sidekicks of all time, and seeing how bonds can form between the most unlikely of people is a message worth learning. Add in daring space adventures, a real sense of danger, and pirate's treasure, and you're in for a wonderful time. 44. Brother Bear. A story about a boy becoming a man by becoming a bear. It's a love story, but not the romantic type. Instead, it's one about brotherhood and found family, how family is always there for each other, how the family needs each other. There are other messages about respecting nature, understanding the full story, walking in others' shoes, and forgiving yourself and others. All of this is formed through a heartwarming story that will make you both laugh and cry. Some things could have been dialed down, such as the A's, but Coda is a wonderful representative of everything we love and annoys us about little brothers, and this movie just makes you feel warm and fuzzy by the end of it. 45. Home on the Range. I didn't hate it, but I didn't particularly enjoy it either. It was a children's western full of action and nonsense based around 3 milk cows trying to catch a villain for money to save their farm. There was too much going on for my taste, the villain was boring, the story rushed, and any meaningful moments were quickly ruined by some joke. I can see a younger audience really enjoying this movie, but I prefer my movies to have some real meat to it, and talking cows don't count. 46. Chicken Little. This movie was not as bad as I remembered it being, but it still wasn't great. None of the characters felt fleshed out, and for a movie about the importance of closure and communication, it rushes through those moments unwatchably fast. I like the message of trusting your kid, but I also think that I made a fool of the father, both when he didn't believe in his son, and even when he was. The movie force-feeds you its message, while the images on the screen contradict it, and overall, it's just weird to the point of being bad. You feel uncomfortable watching it, and it simply could have been done better, or just not have been made at all. 47. Meet the Robinsons. This movie is weird, but it knows it, and for that reason, it works. It's showing you the importance of finding family, moving forward, embracing mistakes, and a lot of other sweet ideas, bundled in bright colors, wacky characters, and just fun times. I highly doubt by the time I'm 37 any of the stuff invented in this movie will be a thing, but I still enjoyed the show, even if the story isn't quite as fleshed out and in-depth as some of the studio's better movies. 48. Bolt. My little brother was obsessed with this movie for a while, and it's easy to see why. The animal characters are well developed, there's plenty of action, and the movie leaves you feeling warm inside when it's finished. It's fun to see animals acting like humans in a quest to find their human, and discover what it is to be a pet. Overall, Bolt is a cute kids action movie with some heartwarming moments mixed in. 49. The Princess and the Frog. I struggle with this movie, and I think that's because the movie struggles with its own messages. It's torn between working for your dreams and wishing for them hard enough to have them come true, and it ends up with just saying both works. Live your life and you'll get what you want eventually, and that's very unrealistic. The love story seems sweet on the surface, but dig deep and the prince, well, I think Tiana could have done and should have done better. One thing I can agree with is that sacrificing for your family and friends is indeed something you should be willing to do, because love is sacrifice. And I do like how they made Lani a supportive friend to Tiana, when it would have been so easy to make her the next evil stepsister. So at its base, this is a good movie, but diving deeper, it has a lot of issues I think could have been handled better. 50. Tangled. Disney's 50th movie was a strong one that, in my opinion, started off Disney's second golden era of films. Watching this and The Princess Frog, I couldn't help but see the similarities, especially when it came to the love interest of the princesses. But where I can't stand the prince, I adore Flynn, and I think it comes simply down to repentance. Flynn tries to fix his mistakes as he falls for Rapunzel, while Nadine simply fits Tiana into his desires. Flynn also knows how to be serious when he needs to be, and that adds a lot to the believability of him changing his ways, because he cares for Rapunzel. I simply adore this movie, from the music to the observation of a version of stereotypes to the incredible Scar-level villain. There's a reason Rapunzel is my favorite Disney princess, and this movie is it. 51. Winnie the Pooh. Like the first one, we see the book literally come to life as characters interact with the narrator and words on the page. Other than a bunch of small stories, we have one big one with little pieces that connect in the end. I do prefer the first one to this, as I feel it had more of the sentiment and simple lessons Winnie the Pooh is loved for, while this one seemed to lack that. I miss those wholesome moments between Robin and Pooh, and for that reason, while this is still a cute movie, it wasn't as true to the emotion of the Pooh stories as it could have been. 52. Wreck-It Ralph. This movie is sweet, and it's not just because most of it takes place in a candy-themed video game. It's because of the relationships between the main characters and the message of finding contentment with who you are. And it's not just accepting who you are, but learning to see yourself as you want to be seen, and then being that someone. It's a friendship story at its core and fun to watch beginning to end. 53. Frozen. You have one of these songs memorized whether you wanted to or not, and even beyond that one song, it's a good movie. Making fun of and finally acknowledging why insta-love doesn't work and can even be dangerous. It also shows Disney returning to the importance of family and friendship-based love, which I think is great to see. This is a great movie and one I always enjoy rewatching. 54. Big Hero 6. A classic superhero origin story that is very aware that that is what it is. But beyond that, this movie tackles tough ideas such as grief, friendship, revenge, and forgiveness. The superpowers and environment are so beyond our world and yet still seem realistic. It will make you laugh, it will make you cry, and overall it's an amazing coming-of-age tale that makes it not just one of the animation studio's best movies, but one of Marvel's. 55. Zootopia. This movie tries taking on some extremely complicated concepts like stereotyping and racism and presenting them in a family-friendly way. And to be honest, it does a pretty good job of it, as it shows just how complicated these concepts are. The movie constantly proves stereotypes wrong, while also reminding people that some do fall under those, and that that's okay too. Judy didn't want to be the stereotypical carrot farmer, but she doesn't condemn her parents who do want to be that. In fact, she loves and treasures their impact in her life. This movie also did some interesting things, such as having minorities being the one in power, and making comments on biological cores, which is a huge tool used by pro-slavery people. In other words, this is a movie that calls to be analyzed, and I think is a very productive thing to analyze, especially for younger audiences who it can be hard to introduce such large topics in a way that will have a positive impact on their lives. 56. Moana. A coming-of-age story that has a special place in mine and so many others' hearts. It's about accepting who you are while still actively finding yourself. I feel the most powerful moment is when the grandmother tells Moana if she wants to turn back, that's okay. Her love is still with her. So often we put expectations on each other, force people to earn our respect and love when respect and love should be a necessity we freely give. In the end, Moana does find herself, and also helps others find their places too. Beautiful imagery, beautiful music, and a beautiful message. 57. Ralph Breaks the Internet. Let's get something about this movie out of the way. 2 generations from now, the kids watching this movie are not going to get half the references. That being said, the core messages of the movie I think will always be relevant, especially in a time where travel and moving are so common. As someone who has gained and lost friendships a lot, I feel what happens in this movie really deeply, and the truth is, the ending of this movie is a rarity, with most of my friendships having ended completely after we started on separate paths. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be willing to let friends go, to be willing to support them in their dreams, even if it means we'll miss them greatly. I don't think the internet was the best setting to put this message, as we get many themes such as instant stardom, the like culture, and hate comments hinted at but not fully explored, and these themes just end up taking away from the main message of the movie. Still, it's an enjoyable film, and I suggest enjoying it while the references are still relatable. 58. Frozen 2. While I prefer the original, I do feel this movie is on the same level as the first. I wish Kristoff did more, but I love the development of the sisters. I always appreciate a good movie that dives deep into psychological and social issues, while also having good songs and beautiful graphics. This movie takes finding yourself to a new level, reminding us that some things we do need to do alone, while other things we do need help from others. It touches on grief and how love and kindness will do the most good for those struggling with it. And in the end, the entire movie points to one thing, that the one thing that truly never changes is love. 59. Raya and the Last Dragon. First time watching this, I could see it was a powerful movie. Getting to watch it again for this project, and it might be the most powerful message-wise of any of the studio's movies. Trusting the untrusting in order to create more trust. Being willing to do all things for love, sacrificing yourselves for others, dealing with loss and regrets, all of it in a story that's as beautiful as the animations. I wish this movie could truly penetrate those who watch it. I wish people would start trusting and loving again, because that holds more power than any weapon ever could. 60. Encanto. Disney really said the 60th is going to top them all. A movie with magic, all about family and loving each other no matter our gifts. Being proud of what we accomplished even if it isn't what we had wanted for that other person. By far the best songs Disney have ever created, as catchy as Frozen but not as irritating upon the 14th re-listen. This is a movie that will be treasured in the years to come. The perfect family movie about a not-so-perfect family. And that is all 60 animated films. I feel like I learned a lot about how culture has changed through the ages by watching these movies develop as time passed. Despite all the changes, the core messaging of Disney Animated Studios has remained the same. All 60 movies are about 3 things: culture, diversity, and love. These 3 themes are not always done in an appropriate way, also known as Donald Duck, but that doesn't change the fact the themes are there. The world thrives on culture. Its beauty comes from its diversity, and the thing that powers it is love. Such a simple message promoted through 60 diverse, culture-filled, love-representing movies. I'm looking forward to the next 60 movies this powerhouse of a studio creates. Hopefully, its core message will stay the same as the animation style, stories, and music changes to reflect the ever-changing world. On the screen now is my ranking of all the movies, in case you were wondering, or in case you wanted a reason to rant about how wrong I am. Seriously, comment sections are open for ranting. If you make it through the entire video, I appreciate it, as in time spent on the video, this one is my longest one yet. While leaving your rant, don't forget to like the video. But this is all the time I have for today. I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!